Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Daniel, and I am the owner of the Florida Weather Watch Facebook page and the Florida Weather Watch YouTube channel. Here tonight I'm going to try my first ever YouTube live stream tonight. So we will see how well this goes. Uh, and the reason why I decided to do a live stream instead of a video is because I want to be able to take people's questions and their comments and concerns that they have about Tropical Storm Idalia as not Idalia, Idalia, um, as it's looking more and more like it's going to be a actual threat to Florida and potentially a significant hurricane threat to the state of Florida in the coming days ahead. I scheduled this for 10 o'clock. I just wanted to come on, make sure that I had all my technology working and everything. And hopefully, um, what you call it? Hopefully this will work tonight. So what I'm going to do is, as the live stream continues, is I will come back and check up on the chat over here throughout the stream. Because I gotta figure out, can I pop this out? I'm learning along the way, folks. I'm gonna be learning along the way here. Okay. Can I pop this out? Not really. Okay. Hey, Herman, how you doing, buddy? Uh, W in the chats, hopefully. I just welcome aboard tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna wait for a little bit for more viewers to come in since I just started. But tonight's live stream is going to be about Tropical Storm Idalia, the latest that's going on with this system, and why it's becoming a big concern for the state of Florida in the next couple of days ahead. Um, So hopefully everything's working technology-wise. So what I'm going to say is, as I go through this live stream, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask that if you have any questions or comments or anything, go ahead and put it in the chat here for me. Let me go ahead and live chat. All messages are visible. Coolio. Okay, so that should be working now. Okay. Welcome again to the Florida Weather Watch live stream for this evening on Tropical Storm Idalia. And if you can let me know in the comments for the chat if you can hear me well, if everything looks good on your end, you can see everything going on my screen. Again, this is the first time that I am doing a YouTube live stream, and I'm trying to do it through OBS Studio. So hopefully it is working. Okay, so just let me know. Okay. Let me see if I launch it through here too. Okay, everything was set correctly. Okay, so we should be off and we should be running here at this point. Okay, so good evening once again. If you are just joining in, I am here for the next couple hours as I will be going over the latest with our tropical storm Idalia tonight, as there's been some significant developments that have happened overnight, over the past few hours here that I would like to go over with everyone tonight. So what I'm also going to do is, for the purposes of this entire video and everything, is I'm going to start the recording now. Okay, so good evening. Welcome to the Florida Weather Watch's YouTube live coverage of Tropical Storm Idalia. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know it's 9:59 right now, so I will wait one more minute to get started, since I officially set the time for this live stream at 10 p.m. Okay, and Herman, if you're still on the live stream, buddy, could you let me know if you can hear me well, and if you're able to see everything on the screen that I'm sharing as well? Just want to make sure I have everything set correctly here. Hmm. Encoding overloaded. Consider turning down video settings or using it. Hmm. Hmm. Oh, I see what it's doing. Okay, why are you doing this? Okay, maybe if I just take off the video settings, it'll be better. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, like I said earlier, this is my first ever YouTube live session on OBS software. So bear with me. I'm just making sure that everything's going to be working correctly for you uh, in this live video. Uh, okay, that's working. Yeah, it looks like my video is slowing that down. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this here. Okay. So let's go ahead and try it without my video here. Hopefully, now that I got rid of my video and everything, it will go ahead and work better for you. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I was again, like I said earlier, this is brand new to me doing YouTube live, but hopefully everyone can hear me. Hopefully everyone can see my screen this evening um, as well. So let me stop recording. Okay. So, let me go, 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 stop recording Okay, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to the Florida Weather Watch's YouTube live coverage of Tropical Storm Idalia. I'm going to go ahead and get started since it's 10:05. Thank you very much for those of you who are joining. Please make sure that that if you have any questions or comments or anything, please leave them in the live chat below. As we go through this stream, if you have any questions, please put them in the live chat, and I will do my best to answer your questions this evening and your concerns that you have with Tropical Storm Idalia. Okay, so at this moment, what we are looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is we are looking at the current satellite imagery for for Idalia here. Idalia is a tropical storm according to the National Hurricane Center. Latest advisory that came out roughly about 3 hours ago, and actually for this live stream to this evening, I am planning on going all the way through when the next advisory will be coming out at 10 p.m. Central Daylight Time and at 11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, and the reason why you see Central Daylight Time is because where the storm is positioned right here in the Northwest Caribbean is in the Central Time Zone here, so that is why they are using Central Time. But let's go ahead and take a look at what's currently going on. With our storm here. And with our storm here currently right now, we have a pretty significant situation going on here where you will notice that this evening there is a pretty intense burst of what's called convection or thunderstorms that has occurred around the center of Idalia tonight here. Okay. So what you're noticing here is this big circular symmetric area of thunderstorms that has blown up over the past past few hours tonight, and it's staying like that. And what this is showing us is that this tropical storm Idalia is indeed actually strengthening this evening, and it could be strengthening pretty quickly. Because what we look for is these colors over here tell us how intense the thunderstorms are in a storm. And when we get into these colors here that are the brighter colors, when we get into the yellows, into the reds, even the blacks, and even especially the whites and the pinks right here, you are looking at some very tall thunderstorms right now. And you're looking at some thunderstorms that are producing some very intense lightning, and they are reaching high up in the air right now. So what that's telling us this evening is that we are looking at a intensifying storm right now, and when we look at these storms, you could pretty much draw a circle right here around the storms, and it is almost symmetrical. What that means is it's about the same size north to south as it is east to west. And what that tells us is this is getting organized. It's getting stronger this evening. And what you're going to notice too is with this satellite imagery tonight, there's even some bands going on here. So we have a band right here that's feeding into the storm. We have another strong band of showers and thunderstorms feeding here. We have another strong band of showers and thunderstorms feeding this way. And it's starting to really start to come together. There's even a slight band over here that is starting to try to rotate towards the storm here. So what we're noticing is that the storm is getting stronger. It is getting better organized this evening. And as we go through time, this is expected to continue. In fact, this should be strengthening as we continue over the next few days, all the way up to the landfall in Florida. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to shift gears a little bit here, and I'm going to go ahead and show you. Well, first of all, I need to do a little bit of a plug right here for this stream and everything. I am a social media forecaster, if you did not know, not only for Facebook, but I am also a social media forecaster for a app called Clear Sky Media. Okay, and please make sure that you go ahead and download the free app. It is a totally free app, ladies and gentlemen, that you can download. It's called Clear Sky Media, and when you go on Clear Sky Media, you not only have access to me as the Florida Weather Watch, but you will also have access to many other forecasters from around the entire country. So this is my page for Florida weather here on the Florida Weather Watch page on Clear Sky, where I have all my forecasts and everything that you can have access to for free, ladies and gentlemen. But what I wanted to walk you through is let's go ahead and walk you through the latest with this storm. We are currently looking at a tropical storm with 45-mile-an-hour winds. That is moving east-northeast at 3 miles per hour currently. And what I want to show you is the latest forecast track warnings and watch. Well, there's no warnings right now, but there are watches going on. Okay, so this is the interactive map that is available through the National Hurricane Center's website. Um, and when you go through this map, what it's going to show you is all the watches and warnings. So we do have warnings on the tip of the Yucatan Peninsula here, the western tip of Cuba. There's a tropical storm watch for Pinar, El Cabo, I believe it is, and a tropical storm watch for the dry Tortugas here, as well as for Cape Coral down to the Naples area here. But all these pinks here, we now have hurricane watches, ladies and gentlemen, and storm surge watches in effect for the entire Florida Gulf Coast, from Inglewood up to Indian Pass over here. So Inglewood's down here, Indian Pass is here. And this entire Big Bend region, including Tampa, is now under a hurricane watch. The reason for that is because the expectation from the Hurricane Center now with this storm is that we will see a hurricane, a Category 2 hurricane, possibly impacting the Big Bend region of Florida coming Wednesday early morning hours across the region, okay, of the Big Bend area of Florida here. So what this shows us is that the forecast winds are forecast to be 100 miles an hour. That is a strong Category 2. Wind gusts of 120 miles per hour possible anywhere within this cone. And one thing that I cannot emphasize enough with all these forecast cones that you see, okay, I'm going to explain it to you this way, okay? You see the forecast cone right here. What this forecast cone tells us is where is it possible, based upon the computer forecast models and analysis from the experts at the National Hurricane Center, where could the center, or when we get to a hurricane situation, the eye of a storm be? Not just the storm itself. This tells us where the center of a hurricane or a storm could be. And something to keep in mind as I go back to the satellite loop right here is that there are bands and storms and weather that happens well away from the center that could have an impact on you as well. Okay, so just keep this in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that just because you may not be in the cone right now does not mean you're not going to get impacted. Okay, you still have to stay vigilant anywhere that is in the hurricane watch area. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and zoom down here. So we have our what's call it in yellow right there. That's the line right here. That's the tropical storm watch. But we have our hurricane watches all the way from Sarasota County down here, Sarasota, all the way up into Tampa here in Clearwater, Hillsborough, Spring Hill, Citrus County here, Levy County, Dixie County, Taylor County here, all the way up through Franklin County here in the Florida Panhandle. And yes, Tallahassee is in this cone, ladies and gentlemen. Tallahassee's in the cone. Gainesville is in the cone. Ocala's in the cone. Tampa is as well. Jacksonville is in this cone. So much of northern Florida is in the cone, except for the Pensacola and Destin areas, which are far outside the cone. Um, that does not mean that you don't stop watching the storm in the Florida Panhandle here, because as we know, as history has taught us here in Florida, that these storms in the Eastern Gulf tend to do some crazy and unpredictable things. All I have to remind viewers of is remember Hurricane Ian last year. Okay, at one point, Hurricane Ian was supposed to take a track like this, north of Tampa, and impact the Big Bend area of Florida. Not even 48 hours away from landfall. That was the forecast. And little did we know, and what ended up happening was because the storm got stronger, it started turning quicker, and when it turned quicker and everything, it ended up devastating Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Port Charlotte, and Sanibel Island. And many, many lives, unfortunately, were lost on that day because of, number one, the unpredictability of the track, number two, because of how slow the storm was moving, and number three, because of just how intense and how high the storm surge became in these areas. And the storm surge did not leave for several hours. And that's the next thing I'm going to go ahead and get into here, ladies and gentlemen. Dark Crab says that they live in Tampa, and should they be worried? Honestly, you're in the cone, Dark Crab. Okay, when you're in the cone, that means you can get hit with the center of the storm. So even though I don't want to create any panic or any fear mongering, as some people will say, okay, when you're in the cone for a hurricane, especially one that's forecasted to be at least a Category 2 hurricane, you definitely have to take it seriously. This is not something to get complacent about. This is something where you should start reviewing your hurricane plans, should start making sure you have your supplies ready, and if you're in an evacuation zone, know where you're evacuating to. Because in Tampa here, you are well within the cone, and one of the biggest concerns is if this storm goes to the north of Tampa, you're going to face storm surge issues. Okay, and that's why there's storm surge watches all the way from Indian Pass all the way down to Inglewood here. And what this map that I'm about to show you is going to show is the storm surge inundation and forecast for all of the Florida coastline. Sorry about that. Okay. So what this is showing is this is a product from the National Hurricane Center as well. And what it is showing is the potential storm surge flooding. Okay. And this is an important thing. It states here, displayed flooding values indicate the water height that has about 1 in 10 chance of being exceeded. Okay. So what that means is that there is a chance that it could be higher than this. Okay. So when I zoom into these views of the storm surge flooding that is possible along the west coast of Florida here, any value in blue means that's greater than 1 foot above the ground. That means you could see water rise at the coastline of 1 feet or higher. Yellow means 3 feet or higher. Orange means 6 feet or higher. And red means at that point 9 feet or higher. And honestly, when you get to 6 to 9 feet of storm surge, that is unsurvivable, ladies and gentlemen, because at 6 to 9 feet, that is above most everyone's heads. And the power and the weight of the water itself would be too great for any human to overcome. Okay. So again, before I go over to storm surge flooding, ladies and gentlemen, remember you can leave comments in the chat. If you have questions or concerns or any comments or anything, please leave them in the chat here for me. Okay. And also, please let me know in the chat, for those of you that are watching and have YouTube channels, Please let me know if you're able to, the stream is running smoothly, and if you're able to hear me well and see everything I'm sharing with you well. Okay, so all of the entire Florida Gulf Coast from the Apalachicola area here, all the way down the coastline here to the Dry Tortugas and Key West, is forecast to have some level of storm surge flooding. So before I go into the individual areas, let me show you the forecast map on the Clear Sky Weather app that I posted, ladies and gentlemen. So again, please make sure you're downloading the Clear Sky Weather app, where you'll be able to access all these graphics that I will be posting, and I will be posting and updating at least twice a day on the Florida Weather Watch page on the Clear Sky app. And remember, the Clear Sky Media app is free. And before I continue on, down here, even if you wanted a custom forecast, ladies and gentlemen, you would be able to access me and to get a custom forecast especially created by me. Okay. So moving back up here, this is the latest storm surge forecast from the National Hurricane Center. And let me go ahead and zoom in a bit for you here. Okay. So what this is showing us is where can we expect the highest storm surge flooding and how much storm surge flooding will there be. And if the storm continues on its current track, which is supposed to be a Category 2 hurricane somewhere within the Big Bend region of the Florida Gulf Coast here, the most storm surge flooding would be between the Asilla River, I may be mispronouncing it, and Chassahowitzka. Oh, I love being challenged to pronouncing Chassahowitzka. Okay, so in the Big Bend region, this is where you're going to see the most storm surge flooding of possibly 7 to 11 feet. Outside there, you could see areas of 4 to 7 feet, 5 to 8 feet over here to the Anclote River here and the Ochlockonee River here. And then the Tampa Bay region currently is forecasted to have 3 to 5 feet of storm surge flooding. The Charlotte Harbor, 2 to 4 feet. Down to the Keys, you're dealing with 1 to 3 feet. And Indian Pass up here, you're dealing about 2 to 4 feet. But that is if the storm takes the exact track from the National Hurricane Center. And one thing I cannot emphasize enough is when I go back to this cone, if you are anywhere within this cone, that means you have a chance of seeing the center of the storm hit your area. And remember that these storms are not just a single point. They are an area of expansive weather and intense thunderstorms and rainfall and gusty winds and everything. Okay. And as I go back to the satellite imagery right here, you can see these intense thunderstorms, what we call in the weather world convection, okay, is remaining and it's staying the same and it's intensifying. And dare I say, with these little dots right here, that may be the those are what we call in the biz hot towers, where we're getting these individual thunderstorms that are sparking up that are rising above everything else. And that's definitely another indication that we're dealing with a strengthening tropical storm right now. And another indication of that is this, okay? What this map is showing right here is this is a buoy, something that floats in the middle of the ocean, where this is showing us this is a buoy that's right next to the center of Tropical Storm Idalia this evening. And this green line shows us the air pressure. And in tropical systems, the lower the air pressure goes, the stronger the winds generally get, and the stronger the storm will get. And what this shows us right here is this buoy right here shows a big pressure drop in the past hour or so, right near the center of Idalia. Okay, this pressure dropped from what's almost 1,005 millibars here, down to almost 997 millibars here, all within the span of a few hours. And this blue line represents the winds that are sustained, and then the red lines are the wind gusts. And notice how as I go back to my pen tool here, notice as hey, come back here, okay? Notice, ladies and gentlemen, that as we had the pressure drop here, we saw the winds rise rapidly here. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is a surefire sign that we have a strengthening tropical cyclone. Okay, this is real-time data that supports that this tropical storm is strengthening and strengthening quickly because of that pressure drop right there is pretty significant. It was a steep drop, and then you had a steep rise in the winds that responded accordingly. So right now, this is proof right now that this is a strengthening tropical storm because this buoy right here showed a big pressure drop and also a big increase in wind speeds of up to 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts right here, ladies and gentlemen. This is, by the way, in meters per second on the side here. This is not in miles per hour. This is in meters per second here. Okay. So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions or comments or anything about this storm, please make sure that you leave them in the live chat. I am more than glad to help you out this evening with your questions and concerns here. And please let me know if this live stream is running smoothly. If somebody could be kind enough to, in the chat, let me know how well you're able to see everything as well. Okay. Because again, like I said, this is my first time ever doing a YouTube live session and on this computer. So I'm kind of testing this computer out too. Okay. So I'm going to go back to the forecast here and the storm surge. Sorry I got off track there, but needed to make that statement. Okay. So what this is showing us is the potential storm surge flooding that could happen along the coastline here. And the most significant that you're going to see is in this Big Bend area of Florida here, where these reds represent 9 feet or greater of storm surge flooding. And look how far inland this can get. 1 foot or higher storm surge flooding, a couple of miles inland, it looks like here in the Big Bend area where there's some low elevations there. And then where you have, Suwannee here, with the river, with the Suwannee River Delta and everything, this will be completely underwater. This entire area, if the forecast track verifies. You're looking at a river delta here. You're looking at 9 feet or higher, maybe up to 11 feet of storm surge flooding here. And as I go along this area, you have Cedar Key here. That would be inundated with storm surge flooding all the way down here to Yankeetown, the coastline near Yankeetown. Would it be experiencing some significant storm surge flooding down to the Crystal River area here? You would see some significant storm surge flooding here. I'm not sure why this isn't processing here. Maybe if I zoom back out, it will. But yeah, when I go all the way down the west coast of Florida here, you're looking at some pretty significant storm surge flooding. And even in old Tampa Bay, depending on how the wind flows around this storm, and if it goes north or south of Tampa Bay, will make a huge difference. The reason why I say that is I'm going to try to illustrate this for you. And the reason why a storm moving north of Tampa Bay is way worse than a storm moving south of Tampa Bay. Okay, so I'm going to try to illustrate this concept to you all right now. So let us say that you have a, in this case, let's say that we have this storm. Okay, let me go ahead and go back here. Okay, let us say you have a storm, and remember, these storms are areas of low pressure, okay? So let's say you have a storm right there off the coast, okay? In the northern hemisphere, you have winds that go counterclockwise around areas of low pressure. So that means that the winds are going to be flowing in this direction around the air, around the hurricane. Okay. And when you have the winds going in this direction around the hurricane, what's going to happen is if you have a hurricane that is north of Tampa Bay, it's going to push water up into Tampa Bay here, and it's going to cause great storm surge flooding as it funnels through. So that's why if this storm goes north of Tampa here, you'll have a lot more storm surge flooding going on because it's going to be pushing the Gulf of Mexico waters into the Bay of Tampa Bay. Okay. So remember, that's because in the northern hemisphere, like I said, these winds go counterclockwise around an area of low pressure, which is a hurricane. Okay. So what's going to happen is as the storm's moving up, all this water is going to go over into the Gulf coastline here and cause storm surge flooding. Now, the opposite is true if a storm goes south of Tampa Bay here, which we had with Hurricane Ian. Remember with Hurricane Ian, it came south of Tampa Bay, okay? And let's say you had a storm near Sarasota here. Remember that with a hurricane, the winds go counterclockwise, right? So what's going to happen is with this storm here, and I know I'm not drawing a perfect circle here. I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. But what ends up happening is with these storms, it tends to sometimes draw water out of Tampa Bay. So the geography of the Florida coastline is so important to determining storm surge flooding because wherever the storm tracks and the angles of the coastline will determine how much storm surge flooding an area will receive. Okay, so again, that's why Tampa Bay is such a sensitive area here because if you get a storm that goes north of your area, you're going to have in Tampa Bay the water going into the bay and piling up into both of the bays, the old Tampa Bay and the new Tampa Bay. That's if you have a storm that is to the north here, okay? Now, if you had a storm that is to the south of you, you are going to see the waters come out of the bay, okay? So it all depends on the angles of the coastline and everything. But that is the important thing to keep in mind that no matter what, we are looking at a very significant storm surge flooding event because remember, the expectation currently is that we are going to possibly see a Category 2 hurricane impacting the Gulf Coast of Florida sometime early Wednesday morning here. So when I go back to the Clear Sky app here, you'll see right here, the expectation is that, one second here, is that you will have a hurricane somewhere within this region, anywhere from the Tampa, maybe even Sarasota area, all the way to Indian Pass, could be seeing hurricane conditions as early as Tuesday night and most likely by Wednesday early morning. By the time you're waking up Wednesday morning, the storm will be impacting you. I notice that this track will take it quickly away from the area through the day on Wednesday. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and come back here to see there's semi-frequent buffering on the live. Okay. Thank you for letting me know, Regina, that there's some buffering issues going on. Maybe it's just that my computer software is just not up to speed for this. So yeah, hopefully things will improve as I go along with this stream here. Okay. So, again, remember, if you have any questions or comments or anything, please let me know in the chat. I will try to respond to them as best as I can throughout the stream here. And my plan is I'm going to take this stream all the way through into the new advisory that's going to be coming out within the next half hour from the National Hurricane Center. Uh, and we'll see what they do with this intensification that is going on, because there's some clear intensification going on with this tropical storm right now. This area of showers and thunderstorms and convection is really persisting, really staying strong right here. So it's going to be an interesting call at 11 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 o'clock Central Time. Now, what I want to take you through is the latest computer forecast model runs. And I want to caution you that these runs do not have some of the most important data from the hurricane hunters earlier. The hurricane hunters went out this afternoon and this evening and surveyed the entire eastern Gulf of Mexico down into the Northwest Caribbean and sampled the entire environment around the storm here. So you're going to notice like all of these flags here. All of these flags here represent a data mark that some data that the hurricane hunters, the plane, received about the environment up ahead of Tropical Storm Idalia. And this data got taken before the last set of the computer models came out, which was the 18Z, but models here. So what this hurricane hunter did is it did a crisscross pattern across the entire Gulf of Mexico, dropping what are called drop sounds here. That's what these tubes are right here. And it was measuring exactly the wind speeds, the temperatures, the moisture in the atmosphere, all along the Gulf of Mexico, all the way down to where the storm actually is. And what these flags tell us is the direction of the winds, where they're coming from, and the speed of the winds, where they're coming from. And this data gets sent into the computer forecast models that you hear so much about from the weathermen that you see on TV. Okay, and what these computer forecast models do is they take all this data and they're going to go ahead and they're going to input it into their fancy, complicated Calculus 3 level algorithms, and they're going to come out with results like this. Now, these models came out again before that Hurricane Hunter aircraft went out and did that whole surveying. So when we get the computer forecast models overnight, ladies and gentlemen, the next set of the models that's going to come out is probably going to be around the midnight hour. We're going to see all of that new data get inputted into these models. And depending on what that data shows, it may influence this track to either go more into the panhandle, further south or east, or staying the same. So the reason why I'm kind of concerned right now about this system is not just the fact that you have these intense thunderstorms going on, but what's happening in the environment around it. Okay, so what this is, this is called the water vapor satellite imagery. And what this is showing us is how is the air and the moisture and the clouds in the environment reacting and moving around this storm. Okay, so obviously here we have a strengthening tropical storm. We have a tropical storm that is starting to grow in size here. By the way, over here, off to the side here, you see that we have Hurricane Franklin right here. This is staying out to sea, and it's going to not be a threat to the United States. But this actually could have an impact on opening up a little alleyway here for her eventual Hurricane Idalia to go through. Okay, and the one thing I want to show you right now, the one thing that is interesting to me is actually, let me go ahead and I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see this better. Give me a second here. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe one more boom. Okay, that's enough boom. Okay, so something that is very interesting to me that I'm noticing on the water vapor loop, which kind of has me concerned for a track possibly. Again, I want to emphasize one thing too. I am not a forecaster with the National Hurricane Center. I'm a social media weather forecaster that's been studying weather since I was 9 years old. Um, which means I'm here 25 years later doing this. Uh, but I am not a professional meteorologist. Not with the National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center. So obviously, what they say at the National Hurricane Center should take precedence over what I'm saying. But I'm giving you some unbiased views and some analysis that I think is very valuable here. And what I want you to notice is with this water vapor loop right here, you're going to notice here something that came across my eye today. And you're going to notice right here, there's a spin in the atmosphere right here. It's kind of hard to tell a little bit, but there's a little bit of a spin in the atmosphere here. That is what we call an upper level low. And what this is doing is you're going to notice the clouds right here across the Gulf of Mexico are starting to flow in this direction in the upper levels of the atmosphere. And this is what's eventually going to be lifting Idalia here. Okay, Idalia right here is going to eventually be lifted northward into the Gulf here. And depending on how strong this flow is, this storm may actually end up curving across the state earlier, or depending on how strong it gets, it may go up into the Big Bend area. So that's why you have all these hurricane watches all the way down into the Sarasota area here, because there's still a lot of uncertainty with this forecast track. And one thing about these storms is that the faster this storm gets stronger and the deeper and more intense this storm gets, the sooner it will start to curve towards the state of Florida. Okay, so what's going to end up happening is this is going to be slowly moving as it's been doing, but this upper level low right here could play a big role in determining where this storm eventually makes landfall. Because as you see, there is a flow that is starting to develop out in the Gulf of Mexico here that is going to eventually steer this storm. Also, you're going to notice off to the side here, this is from Franklin here. Okay, and this is also flowing in this direction here. So what this is creating is it's creating an alleyway, so to speak, where between these two, between this upper low here and the hurricane here, Hurricane Franklin, it's got nowhere else to go but somewhere along the Florida Gulf Coast, somewhere along here. Okay, so for those of you in the Florida Gulf Coast, I cannot emphasize this enough. Y'all need to make sure that you're reviewing your hurricane plans at this point, making sure you have your supplies ready before, all the craziness and chaos happens where everybody's going last minute to get supplies or gas and stuff like that. Plan ahead as well. And especially if you live along one of those storm surge zones, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're along some of these areas where there's going to be a lot of possible storms or flooding, know your evacuation zones as well. Because again, I'm going to bring this up. I hate to be that person, but the folks in Port Charlotte, Sanibel Island, Cape Coral, and Fort Myers last year learned you don't mess with storm surge flooding. Storm surge flooding is the deadliest force in a hurricane, not the wind. It's the storm surge flooding because it will come quick, it will rise fast, and the power and the weight of the water will be too great for the human body to handle after about a foot above ground level. Okay? So again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions or comments or anything, please let me know in the chat. And again, I am planning on taking this all the way through into the new advisory that is going to be coming out from the National Hurricane Center within the next half hour. And one thing that I do want to show you, ladies and gentlemen, is a few ways that before we get into the hopefully the new advisory coming out soon, a few things I want to show you. If you do want to contact me, okay, the Clear Sky Media app from the oh, wow, I can't talk some days. The Clear Sky Media app. I will be updating this twice a day, as long as this maintains at a risk and a threat to Florida. But with the Clear Sky Media app, ladies and gentlemen, uh, this is a fantastic source um, for anyone to reach some of the best forecasters in the United States. Some forecasters that are on this Clear Sky Media team, created by Jason Bowman, who is also one of the advertiser directors with Fubo TV. He worked with Norcast now as well. But for the Clear Sky Media app, as the logo says, it's the forecasters you trust. There are some individuals, some forecasters that are on this app. I'm not kidding you, that have been forecasting for 50 years, ladies and gentlemen. There are some expert weather forecasters that you may not have access to on TV, um, that are fantastic and phenomenal at explaining weather and being a consistent voice. So, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is a free app where you can go to the Clear Sky Media app on either the App Store for Apple or Google or Android. Download it. It's a white logo that says Clear Sky, the forecasters you trust. And this is where you can reach me. One of the two best ways you can reach me is through the Clear Sky app, where you can go ahead and scroll down on my Florida Weather Watch page here and not just get my latest forecast here. Let me go ahead and reset this so you can see this better. Where you see I have it broken down by region of Florida. But you can get your current conditions for your current statewide conditions, weather in your neighborhood. So if there's any local weather alerts here, they will be active there. But this is where you can request a custom forecast from me and submit that as well. There's live cams from all over the state of Florida that are amazing, that are high quality here as well. And yeah, hey, one of my good friends, childhood friends, gave me a good compliment. I love it down here, and you can share your thoughts here. So if you ever have questions, even if you want to learn about weather, come to this app. This app is made by social media weather forecasters that have been at this game for a decade to multiple decades, and we are here to serve you. And again, I cannot emphasize this enough. It is a free app, no subscription needed. Please download the Clear Sky app. It will be fantastic to be able to build this into a nationwide thing where you're going to see we have forecasters from